The night air over London was unusually still, as if the city itself was holding its breath. Inside the towering walls of Buckingham Palace, tension simmered beneath the polished silence of royal duty. What the public saw was order, tradition, and composure. What they did not see was a storm gathering behind closed doors, one that would soon shake the monarchy to its core. Whispers had begun earlier that week. A private meeting, a leaked travel record, a mysterious disappearance during a period of official engagements, and at the center of it all, Queen Camilla. But this time, the rumors were not being ignored. Prince William had seen the files himself. In a dimly lit study lined with centuries-old books and guarded by heavy velvet curtains, William stood still, staring at a sealed envelope resting on the mahogany desk. The crest on the wax seal had been broken earlier that night. He didn't need to be told what it contained again. He had already read it twice. Flight logs, private marina access, offshore communications. A luxury yacht registered under an opaque holding company linked to several high-profile associates. And Camilla's name, appearing more than once in coded scheduling references. "Tell me this is a mistake," William said quietly, his voice controlled but tight with emotion. Across from him stood a senior royal aide, shifting uneasily. "I wish I could, Your Royal Highness," the aide replied. "But the records have been verified." Multiple sources confirmed the travel pattern. William exhaled slowly, his jaw tightening. So, while the palace was announcing public engagements, she was at sea? The aide hesitated. "It appears so." A long silence followed. The grandfather clock in the corner ticked loudly, each second feeling heavier than the last. William finally turned away, walking toward the window overlooking the darkened gardens. His reflection stared back at him, composed, but fractured underneath. "This isn't just about travel," he said. "It's about trust." Far away from the palace, on the edge of the English coast, a different scene had unfolded days earlier. One that now carried new weight in hindsight. A sleek white yacht, massive and almost blinding under the sun, cut through the waves with effortless power. On board, laughter echoed faintly, glasses clinked, and the world felt far removed from duty, press conferences, and royal protocols. Camilla stood at the upper deck railing, sunglasses shielding her eyes, the wind tugging at her hair. For a moment, she looked free, untethered from the rigid expectations of the crown. "You needed this," a voice beside her said. A close confidant, unnamed in official circles, handed her a chilled drink. Camilla smiled faintly. "If only they understood." "William won't," the confidant replied cautiously. At that, her smile faded slightly. "No," she said. "He never does. Not when it comes to anything outside his control." The yacht shifted slightly with the waves, and somewhere below deck, encrypted communications devices quietly blinked, transmitting routine updates disguised as commercial traffic. Nothing about it was supposed to be unusual, yet everything about it was. Back at the palace, William was no longer alone. A small circle had gathered, trusted advisors, legal counsel, and one senior constitutional expert who had been summoned under urgency. "This goes beyond family matters," the constitutional expert warned. "If these movements were concealed during official duty periods, it raises questions of transparency at the highest level." William's expression remained firm. "I don't care about politics right now. I care about what's true." "And if the truth destabilizes the institution?" another voice asked. William turned sharply. "Then the institution survives on honesty, or it doesn't survive at all." The room fell silent again. A decision was forming, not spoken yet, but unmistakable in its direction. Meanwhile, inside the palace corridors, rumors spread faster than official denials could contain them. A staff member whispered to another near the kitchen entrance. "They say he's seen everything." "Everything," the other replied. "The yacht, the meetings, the missing days." "No," the second voice said nervously. "They'll never let that come out." But even as they spoke, something had already changed. Prince William was no longer reacting. He was preparing. That night, William convened a private briefing in a secure chamber rarely used for anything outside national emergencies. The atmosphere was colder here, stripped of ceremonial warmth. No portraits. No symbols. Just walls designed for discretion. On the screen before him were timelines, mapped movements, financial trails, and travel overlaps that painted a picture far more complex than a simple, private retreat. This pattern repeats 3 times, an analyst explained, pointing at the data. Each instance aligns with major public-facing royal events. William's eyes narrowed. Meaning the absences were strategically timed. A heavy pause followed. And the yacht? William asked. The analyst hesitated before answering. Luxury vessel. Multiple ports of call. But what's unusual is the communication blackout during those periods, followed by sudden reappearances in official settings as if nothing happened. William folded his arms. So, it wasn't just travel, he said slowly. It was coordination. No one responded immediately, because no one wanted to be the one to confirm what he already suspected. Later that evening, William stepped out onto a private terrace. The wind was colder now, sharper, cutting through the silence around him. For a brief moment, he allowed himself to think not as a prince, not as a future king, but as a son navigating a fractured legacy. How did we get here? He murmured to himself. Behind him, footsteps approached. It was one of his closest advisors. It's spreading, the advisor said quietly. Not officially, but people are talking. William didn't turn. Let them talk. That could make things worse. William finally faced him. Worse than secrecy, he asked. Worse than being unable to trust what happens inside our own walls. The advisor said nothing, because there was no easy answer left. And somewhere, miles away across the dark sea, the yacht continued its silent journey, unaware that its movements were no longer hidden, no longer safe in shadows, and no longer just whispers in palace corridors. Back in London, the machinery of consequence had already begun to turn. Slowly, unstoppably. And Prince William, steadfast, controlled, and now fully awakened to what he believed was unfolding, was no longer willing to let it remain in the dark. Not anymore. The next morning arrived with unusual stillness over the palace, but beneath it, nothing was calm. Briefings were being rewritten, calls were being made in hushed urgency, and doors that once remained closed were now being opened under strict instruction. Prince William had made his position unmistakably clear. No more concealment, no more quiet allowances. As the reports converged on his desk, one truth stood out above the rest. Camilla's yacht escape was no longer just a rumor, but a verified sequence of events that could not be ignored. And for the first time, the balance inside the palace had shifted. William was not reacting anymore. He was in control.